Welcome back to the 5% Club. I'm Shayla King, a former C-suite executive turned business and life coach. And this is the podcast for leaders who want it all. The promotions, the paychecks, and luxurious amounts of time for the things that matter most. Each week, I'm going to teach you from my performance and happiness formula what it takes to rise to the top without burnout and overwhelm. Work less, make more, and design a life you love. That's what we do in the 5% Club. Let's go. Welcome back to the 5% Club. I'm Shayla King, your favorite executive sports coach. Today, I am here with Scott and Lynn, who are both my clients and really great athletes. And we're going to talk about the crossover between sports and mindset. And so this is the episode for you, even if you've never picked up a club, never played golf before, because we're going to talk about universal mindset truths that help you succeed at anything. Everything that I do is around performance coaching. How do you get optimal performance? And athletes are phenomenal at it. And so my favorite quote of all time, Lynn, you know it, is not every athlete has a coach, but every Olympian does. And that's really how we approached it. These two individuals that you're going to get to meet today are people who have excelled in the corporate world. They have excelled in their roles and they have excelled in the game of golf. And so we're going to talk about what mindset tricks help you to not only get to the top, but as you know, I'm the performance and happiness coach. So we're going to talk a lot about how you can enjoy the process. How you're not just frustrated and then getting the result you want. How you can actually have fun the whole damn time. All right. In this episode, we're going to talk about how you are in control of your thoughts and your mood. Your identity is not tied to this round or this meeting or this one presentation. We're going to talk about how consistent thoughts create consistent shots. And that works just the same in your work life, where those consistent thoughts are going to get you consistent results. So with that, let's jump in. Lynn, would you introduce yourselves for the 5% Club? Let everyone know who you are, what you do by day, and when you fell in love with golf.
So much, Shayla, and thanks for having me today. My name is Lynn Mulligan, and I, in my day job, am a leader of a data governance and strategy team in the financial services industry. I started playing golf at the age of 8, and probably really fell in love with it sometime in middle school, high school, but I feel like even in recent years, post-college golf, I've fallen in love with it even more because it's been more enjoyable, as we talk about some of the mindset conversations, and so have been passionately playing golf pretty much my whole life. And yes, my last name really is Mulligan, so I'm just destined to play golf and have this conversation with you guys today.
I love it. I love it. How about you, Scott?
So I'm Scott Bender. I'm a corporate controller, director of finance for a construction equipment dealership company in my day job. And when I was born, my mother's boss brought a set of golf clubs to the hospital and gave them to me.
Are you serious?
Yes, serious. Um, he never had children, and by God, the firstborn of his favorite employee was going to play golf. I started playing golf about the age of between 5 and 6. Really, I fell in love with it all through grade school and high school. Sorry, not all through high school. At the end of high school, I'd hated it, the game. And we'll talk about some of those things today, but I was really frustrated with the game and put my clubs away. And then about 4 years later, had a buddy say, come play golf with me. And if you don't like it, I'll never ask you to play again. And I fell in love with the game as an adult. Once I'd worked through some of the things that we will talk about today, but, it's been a lifelong passion of mine, and, I've played all over the country and as many other places as I can play, and, just have loved the game. And so I really appreciate the fact that Shayla, you invited me to come talk about this because I've learned a lot over the years just through this game of golf.
Yeah, and it's such a good parallel for life, and I think a lot of the corporate leaders listening have gotten to that point where at first I loved my career, and I was really into it, and it was so exciting, and I was, like, all in. We also feel that way sometimes with corporate travel, right? At first, it's so exciting, and it's so new, but we get to this tipping point where we're exhausted and angry, and, like, it's not clocking or clicking the way that we thought it would. We're not getting the results we thought we would get, and so we just kinda, like, play angry in our careers. And I think it's such a good parallel to how you can do that with something that you loved with playing golf. And then you get to a point where you just get kind of angry with the sport and your performance and yourself. And you're just like, forget this. And I think we have a lot of people listening that have asked themselves, should I just give this up? Should I just give up this hope of making it to the executive level? Should I just give up this hope of becoming a C suite leader? Like, it's just not worth it because it's so painful. And so, what we're going to talk about today is how you can reframe everything to still do the climb, get what you want, but not have to have all that unnecessary suffering. So, with that, let's jump right in. Tell me, what does your brain say right after a bad shot?
So it's what it used to say was, man, you're terrible. You are just, you suck. And if you're playing in high school and you're playing as a team, you're letting the team down. You're failing everybody. You're failing yourself. You're failing Ed, who gave you those golf clubs when you were born. You're failing. Um, that was really where I started, not liking the game. Um, now it's more of it's, to me, it's more of a patience and um, every shot, almost every shot. I don't like absolutes, but almost every shot, there's a positive and there's a negative. Something could have been better. Something could have been worse. And all you got to do is go, man, what did I do wrong in that shot? And how do I forget? How do I take that out of my, how do I fix that the next time? And how do I forget about it for everything else? And so it's a game about how you build on what's good and you forget about what's bad as you correct things as you move forward.
Yeah, and it's kind of the difference that I'm hearing is from that shot sucked or my swing on the way back sucked or whatever little element you can pull out, not I suck.
Huge difference.
Yeah, we talk about this a lot in coaching because every time we make a mistake, our pendulum typically swings one way or the other. We either want to say, I'm worthless and I screwed up and I did bad and da da da. And we go down this shame spiral, right? And sometimes we think in our head that that means we're passionate and we really care and that's great, right? And sometimes we go the other way and we go, they just don't get it. They don't get me. They don't appreciate me. And both of those are like defense mechanisms because we don't feel like we're good enough, because we don't feel safe in that environment, because we feel threatened, right? And as soon as we can feel secure, I, as a person, the value that I have did not change at all based on that swing or that hole, based on that presentation or that meeting. Like I could go into a meeting and completely bomb it. And my value as a person is unchanged. I still am safe with my home and my spouse and my family. I have enough food to eat. All will be okay. But so many times in that moment, we can just get lost in that was my one chance. Now I'll never have another opportunity. That was it. I just blew it and we catastrophize. So, Lynn, will you share with me a little bit on like when did your brain catastrophize when you had one bad shot?
Yeah, I think the interesting thing with golf, unlike some other sports, is you have so much time in between each execution that your brain can think about a lot of different things. So it can go to the positive, it can go to the negative, it can go to a happy place, it can go wherever you tell it to go. And if our instincts are telling it to go somewhere bad or to overanalyze the good or bad of whatever just happened, or start thinking about the good and the bad of what's to come, that can result in a lot of different things. And sometimes it is that catastrophizing of worst case scenario or, oh my gosh, I need to do X so that Y can happen. I had that happen in college. It was my final round of the NCAA tournament, and I am usually very good at not forward thinking and knowing what my score is. But I went into the last hole and I knew I needed a par in order to break 70 and then have all 4 rounds in the 70s, which was amazing for my skill at the time. But I knew this. I hit a
It's still
not so
pretty
great
amazing, just so you know.
thing. So I hit a not so well executed tee shot, making it a harder second shot. So I was like, oh, I have to hit the green so that I get a par. Did not hit the green from the angle that I was at. And I got up there and I was kind of stressing myself out, but I was able to change my mindset at that time to say, just take it one shot at a time. If I chip this in or chip it close and give myself that opportunity. So I tried to keep myself framed in the positive so that I wasn't getting too far ahead. I wasn't criticizing myself for the not hitting it in the fairway, not leaving myself a great approach shot. So I got up there and lo and behold, with that great mindset, I chipped it in. And so
Yay!
ended my collegiate career with a chip in at the NCAAs and broke 70. So hit a lot of great life goals and had a great memorable experience because of how I was able to shape my mindset and the execution that came with it.
I love that. That's such a good story, Lynn, and I wanna break down a couple of things that you said that I thought are really important for our audience. So, you said you have more time to think in golf than other sports, and I think that is a really interesting intricacy of the sport that you're not immediately going back into action. And as humans, when we're doing our work, we absolutely have the choice to stew or to jump right back into action. And having too much time on our hands can cause negativity. And it's the neuroscience behind it. So, the neuroscience behind it is that we all have something called ants, automatic negative thoughts. And so, the example that I love for this is if I give you 9 puppies and 1 rattlesnake, what are you paying attention to? Right? So our brain is designed to bring up the negative. Our brain is designed to say, what if it goes bad? And the reason it's doing that is actually to protect us. It wants to like warn you about impending doom, right? It wants to warn you that this could hurt and I want you to avoid it. And so our brain is designed to go there. But words that I heard you say, Lynn, that I think are magical is you said you have to tell it where to go, whether to go to the negative or the positive. And we work a lot on that in coaching because every time a situation happens, our brain goes to the rattlesnake and we have to give equal airtime for the puppies, right? Equal airtime for why it could all work out, why we're in a great position, why you're so close to doing this amazing feat, and why it's going to work out in your favor. So I think that's just a beautiful example of redirecting your brain and saying, I know that rattlesnake looks scary, but it's plenty far away. We're safe. Don't worry. I got this. What I want to think about is this.
Yep. So many times I think even just as the regular everyday golfer goes out and they see water on the right, trees on the left, and they tell themselves, don't go right. Like you're telling your brain to focus on that obstacle, focus on that negative instead of telling it, look at all of that fairway down the middle, aim right here. This is where I want to go. So even something as simple as that is one of those natural things that your brain says, don't do this, but you don't hear the don't in your head. You just then you're like, why did I just do exactly what I told myself not to do? Because that's what I was just
Yeah.
thinking about.
Yeah, there's actually been some scientific studies about that, and I know they use it for, like, whitewater rafting. They never tell you to, like, "Don't hit that rock." They always say, "See the space in between? Go right there to that space right there," you know? And the same thing for, like, skiing is you're always focusing on where the gap is, not where the obstacle is. And so that's a really good point. Alright, let's jump into another subject that I think is really valuable when it comes to what you can learn from the sport of golf. So, tell me about what passion looks like. And does anger equal caring?
And as I told you, I was an angry golfer in high school. Uh, Late in my junior year, I had punched a hole with my club and my third bag that I'd had. And most of us got one bag for 4 years on the golf team, and I was on my third, and I punched a hole in it. And basically, the coach told me I was done if I didn't stop doing that. And The reality is, anger for me was a way to show that I cared to others around me, when the reality is it wasn't caring at all. It was me being selfish in my mind about how about how important I was to the overall situation versus just accepting the outcome. Well, the reality is most of the time when you do that, you don't even know the outcome. You've just hit the ball. You just didn't go where you wanted it to. You don't even know what it's like up there, but you're mad because you didn't do what you thought you should do. And at the end of the day, it wasn't caring at all. It was a way for me to process that, I didn't know how to counter at the time. Now I've learned so much more about how to go process the outcome and choose my actions and my behaviors and how I want to be judged, regardless of how a golf ball landed up.
That's deep.
It's been a big change for me. It's a calming thing, and um now there's things that they still get worked up, but at the end of the day, it's just golf. It's a game. And I love it. And it's become way more fun since I accepted it as a game instead of as a job or an identity or um, something like that.
I think it was also really insightful that you said, basically, I was centering myself in this. I'm supposed to be on this team and I don't do what I'm supposed to do. And instead of then supporting the team or staying calm so that they could focus or whatever it might be, I did this outburst to show them that I cared. And it really probably was because at that age, you did have frustration and anger and didn't know other ways of processing it, right? It makes a lot of sense. And I think that a lot of people go their entire lives without figuring out how to process it. I've watched this really silly video. They were in Vegas at one of those, like, I don't know, giant men competitions. Not just like really strong men, but I'm talking about like giant muscles. And they were like walking through the conference, and this tiny dude that was like 5'6", maybe 140 pounds, would go up to these like 350-pound guys and nudge them with their shoulder. And you got to see in an instant whether or not that person had any emotional regulation or not. In an instant. So some of them got hit and they were ready to fight. They were so angry and explosive. And as a coach, I could just see all of that inside that they've never learned how to manage. There were others that were like, "Wait, what happened?" Just very, like, kinda matter of fact, like, "What just happened?" And there were others that immediately laughed. Like, "That is hilarious that dude," like, they had such confidence that they knew no one was actually trying to fight them, especially when they were a fourth of their size. And so they just immediately went to levity and, like, let's just make life funny. And I think it's so important to know we have all of those choices all of the time, right? Even when we screw up, we can be like, "Oh my god, that was terrible." Like, that was wild. Okay, let's not do that again. But I can keep my power and my peace and my happiness. And me having a good attitude about it doesn't mean that I care less. I still want to do a really good job, but I can do a really good job while I'm happy. And when I get angry, my brain actually shuts down. I was talking about this in a different situation where the more frustrated that you get and the more you like overwork, then the more your brain shuts down. And when you're actually angry, you're going to reduce your performance. And so it's counterintuitive because we think we care and we yell and we show our passion. And really, if we can stay in control of our thinking and of our body, then the likelihood for us to be successful the next time is so much higher. Scott, I've talked to you about this example before that I love is if you ever watch a basketball game and somebody goes to shoot a free throw and they miss, what happens?
Typically, all four of their teammates will come up and give them a high five or tell them you got the next one. They'll do something where they interact in a positive fashion with everybody else on the floor on their team.
Yeah, and I
Yeah,
think it's so funny because intellectually honest, they did not just do a good job. Like we're saying good job. They actually didn't, right? But what they're really trying to do is to put that person back into a positive that we believe in you and you can get it this time. And it's that immediate, let's keep you in positive thinking because we know if we support you, you are more likely to succeed in this very next instance, which to your point, Lynn, they don't get much time to think through that, right? They got to go back up again immediately. So I just think it's fascinating because I think it's a big misnomer that anger equals passion. Now, Lynn, I think you have an experience with this as well. Do you want to share?
Yeah, I was gonna also add on to what you were just saying. In like watching a volleyball game, the volleyball players, I feel like do a great job of rallying around each other. If you just watched the teams, you can't tell if they just scored the point or they lost the point because of how they always circle around each other to hype each other up before the next play. But in golf, you don't always have that hype squad. It's many times just yourself out there to try to control your emotions or hype yourself back up. And I feel very fortunate that you're talking about kind of laughing at yourself, laughing at the experience. That's where I strive to be current state. And when I hit one of those silly little shots, I can laugh at myself most of the time and be like, "What was that?" Instead of throwing out some expletives or getting mad at myself as I used to, I can laugh at myself and then move on to the next shot. Similar to Scott, I also grew up in the game with playing with individuals, my dad and grandpa and many other folks in my circle that were very angry golfers. So I got to witness a lot of that anger, and that's how that was normal and how you reacted to bad shots, bad rounds, and things of that nature. Um, However, I realized that how that looked from the outside, and I was like, "I don't wanna look like that. I don't wanna look like one of those angry people." My mom also told me if I ever slammed my club, broke my club, that she was going to take them, so I had a threat to not do that. I also didn't want to look like that. I'd seen a lot of those angry golfers. So then I just suppressed all of that emotion. I was like, "Okay, I can't be angry, but I am really angry on the inside because that's all I knew and how to process those bad shots was to get angry." So I had my big sunglasses on and I would just suppress that emotion and sometimes the tears would come out, but I didn't want anybody to see it because then they would get angry at me. And so I think it's interesting you talk about, Shayla, how it's okay to feel all the emotions, but not all the actions are acceptable. And so that's one of the things now as I look back at like, how did I go from being like an internally angry, emotional golfer to now being able to laugh at myself? It's like connecting all of these dots to the things that we work on in coaching together to say, okay, I needed that time or that experience to figure out how to pivot my mindset to focus on the positive and channel my emotions and thoughts to a more productive outcome.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it probably is important that we acknowledge the nuance that it is okay to feel angry and it is okay to feel let down. It is okay to feel frustrated. But what we do with some of these skill sets is we just have more confidence in ourselves at the beginning. And so it doesn't mean as much to us when it happens, right? Because we have confidence, we have levity, we understand it's just a game, that most of it doesn't bother us as much anymore. So it's not that we've just learned to stuff it down, it doesn't bother us as much in the first place. But every once in a while, whether it's a bad shot in golf on a bad day or it's something else that happens in our life, you're not going to not have emotions as a human. So be angry, let yourself be angry. It's just that it starts being like far and few in between instead of the regular default. And then you become more enjoyable to be around, right? It's the same thing that you guys know of on who you want to golf with. Do you wanna golf with the angry guy or gal who's throwing clubs and pissed off and always disappointed in like, even the disappointed in themselves, I think that's a different style of it, but it makes people emotionally uncomfortable, right? If you're always sad and disappointed in yourself and they feel like they're your emotional support animal and they have to constantly, like, hype you up and tell you it's gonna be okay, that can be exhausting for people, right? So be your own coach. Be your own best friend. Tell yourself what you need to hear and be that hype crew that you're talking about to yourself so that you don't require other people to manage your emotions for you. or to have to experience them in inappropriate settings.
Yeah, and you talked about like that self-reflection or the after the round. So okay, you're out with your buddies or you're in your group and you come back and everyone's first question was, "How did it go today?" You're always asking each other that. What is your response? "Oh my gosh, can't believe I hit this shot and that shot," and, like, going to the negative and how even like you talked about, like, you have a bad meeting or things like that, the meeting after the meeting so that you can complain about what just happened. "Oh my gosh, can you believe this person said this or I did this?" And reflecting on it in a negative way and that complaining way versus like, "Oh my gosh, you won't believe that shot that I hit today. It bounced off a tree back in the fairway, but I chipped it on and made the putt for par." Like, those types of things. It doesn't always have a positive result, but can you laugh at those experiences instead of just complaining about it?
There's not a golfer that starts a conversation after a round with, "You will not believe how great something went today." There's not a
Unless
one
you got
of
a
us
hole in
out
one.
there, not a one of us. I can't explain it. Um, but yeah, we'll eventually get around to talking about that shot, but we'll first talk about how I lost money or I didn't play well or I couldn't hit water if I fell out of a boat, or we can go through a whole list of sayings. And the reality is, that's if you were baseball player after a game, you can remember the win or the great play I had, or that you've got a coach that's saying, "Here's all the great things we did today." And as a golfer, you're the only thing you got, and you end up in those scenarios. But I agree, we don't ever start our after round conversation with the great thing that happened in today's round. So
But what I love is that we can be the change.
yeah.
And so I love the idea of being intellectually honest. And we'll go through after action reviews next so that we can kind of dive deeper into that. But I play it up so sometimes even more on a positive to demonstrate that people can like themselves. People can be happy with their performance. People can be proud of themselves. I think at some age we think you're not supposed to be proud of yourself anymore. Like, we really want our kid to work hard on something and then be proud of themselves, but then there's, like, a cutoff age. Now you're an adult, and you should always be wildly disappointed in your performance. It's, like, so crazy. So, I'll get off of let's say I'm doing a big webinar, and I had, like, 1,000 people on this webinar, and I get off of it, and my girls ask how it goes. Do you know what I say? I was extraordinary. It was so fun. I connected with the audience, this and that. Next time, I definitely wanna change how I did the intro. I don't think it was really strong. And I'll probably add more bullets on this, or I kinda got nervous when people fell off. But, what I could tell is that people connected to the message, so I think I did extraordinary. And so when we talk about ourselves that way, we role model for other people that you're allowed to like yourself. We role model for other people that you're allowed to talk positively about your accomplishments. And I just think it's more fun to be around. If you opened up after the shot and said, "Oh my god, did you see that one on 3? I got like a 14-foot putt. Did you see that? I was on fire, man. I was on fire." Like, that type of energy is electric to be around when it's genuine, right? And so then they might say, "Yeah, but on 8, you really suck. What was that, a 4 putt? What'd you do there?" And then you can do whatever your personality wants to do. You could say, "Listen, I'm gonna talk about number 3. That's what I remember. I don't remember number 8." Or you could say, "Yeah, that was terrible." You can lean into it with whatever personality you want, but if you start with the positive, you can change that entire table's discussion. And you can start little by little, making the whole world a better, happier place.
People
It
sometimes wanna, like, one up, and so you can either one up on the negative, "Oh, you had a 4 putt, I had 3 4 putt, 3 3 putts," whatever it is, or, like, one up on the positive, "Oh, you made a 14-foot putt, I made a 20-foot putt on 18 for birdie," so then you kinda continue that positive momentum and energy of the conversation.
I love that. Yeah, we can banter however we want, and it's so fun, right? I love calling people out too. "Okay, one-upper. All right, I see you." It doesn't matter how we like to kind of talk shit while we're playing, but I love the idea that we don't just look at the rattlesnake. Let's talk about those cute little puppies. Let's make sure we give that equal airtime. All right, let's talk about an after action review. So I hit on this a little bit earlier, but I really want to expand into it because it's one of the lessons that can change people's whole lives. When you do this all of the time after activities that matter, you will exponentially grow faster than your competition. And it's really simple. The first thing you do is you feel sufficiency. Sufficiency just means that I'm safe, I'm good, I'm loved. And you can say this however you want. And people think it sounds really weird and corny at first. Don't care, it works. There's neuroscience behind it, there's performance data behind it. It works. It's the way our brain works. When we don't feel safe, we don't let ourselves be intellectually honest about our failures. And the more we can be intellectually honest about where we can improve, the faster and better we can improve. So, first thing you're going to do is say whatever you need to say to yourself to remind yourself that you're safe. Nothing about your life has changed based on this round of golf. Nothing has changed. I just did this with my daughter the other day with her track meet. It was a really, really windy day, and she was in relays. And so her feedback was, "What do you want to do different?" She goes, "Not have it be windy." And I'm like, "Well, that's not something you personally can change, right?" And then I'm like, "What about this?" "Well, I mean, our handoff on number one was not the best. We can work, like, they can fix that." No, what can you do, right? And you first have to feel safe, and then you have to identify what thing you can actually do to level up the next time. And so we do it this simply. We do it after meetings, we do it after interviews, we do it after, um, presentations, anything that matters in business, and we can do it in our personal life, and we can do it in our sport. And so it's really simple. It's what worked, what didn't, what do I want to do different? So I'm going to pause there and let the two of you jump in. I know you've both tried this both in the workplace and in golf. So will you talk us through your thoughts on after action reviews?
I can go with that one. Yeah. So in the business world, we're always doing after action reviews to understand, like you said, what went well, what do I want to improve upon next time? And I think in golf, that's an area where you may have that laundry list, like we just talked about, of things that you want to improve upon, but how can you channel it into the right conversations, the right things that you can actually control and focus on one thing. There may be a laundry list of intentional thoughts that you're putting through your head, but that's when you can also get yourself to start spiraling. So pick one thing that you want to work on. Maybe it's your grip. Maybe it's keeping your head down when you're putting. Maybe it's engaging more in conversations with your playing partners to get out of your head, to have more fun, to learn something new about somebody and make that connection. And to be, it doesn't even have to be directly related to the game or your actions, because sometimes that's you don't want to focus on too many things or too many new things.
I I like to start a lot of after, like, when we talk about golf a little bit, let's start with the fact that I get to play golf as a 56-year-old dude who's, um, who just it's just what a blessing that I've been able to play for 50 years or whatever it's been. And, yeah, I'm not great, but at the end of the day, I'm really blessed because I get to spend 4 or 5 hours doing something I love. And man, what a way to think about it. What a way to start with it from that perspective. The reality is, like everything in life, just like the example you just shared, something goes well, something doesn't go as well, something may even went catastrophic's not the right word in golf because it's a game. But it something, I mean, could have been
Ball
really
went in
bad.
the water.
Yeah. Well, it's or I got, I ended up and I had a hitch in my swing, and I just one club I couldn't make work all day. And it's just, but at the end of every shot, at the end of every match, at the end of every hole, typically something goes well and something doesn't go the way you want. And if you were just, for me, when I look at it, go, man, how blessed I am to play this game. And now let's think about, man, just three putted that hole, but tee shot to green, man, right down the middle, right in the middle of the green. Man, that's saved myself a stroke there. Right. And so it's, you can think about
Yeah.
all of these things as you walk through, and again, it's at any point in the round. You're the only person that's on your team and when you play the game. Same as when I come away from a meeting. Yep, probably could have handled that situation a little better. But the reality is I got my meeting, I got accomplished what I needed to accomplish, or we hit time constraints and our our C-suite leader asked me to speed up and simplify my presentation, not go through the full thing, and fit it in so we could get the conversation going and started. And man, I was able to close that gap. Somebody else used up time in the meeting, so I did really well there. And that's my work with you, Shayla, has come through and helped me with that. Because otherwise, um, I would have been, those are the types of things where I would have focused on the fact that I didn't get this one thing out. The reality was I was in the presentation and they heard something, they know it's there. And yeah, I didn't get it covered the way I wanted to, but I also helped out somebody who asked me to because I was able to close a gap in time or whatever the case may be, or skip a topic because it got picked up somewhere else in the meeting. All those things you can do in all those situations. But to your point, if I have shame about myself, I will never, not never, I will not be able to productively process all of that.
Yeah, that's a really good way of saying it. If I have shame about myself, I will not be able to productively assess myself. And that works both with yourself and the feedback that you get. I remember coaching an employee who she was one of my top performers. She was amazing and she wanted to be perfect. And so then when I gave her feedback, she was very sensitive to it. And I had to have this discussion with her and I said, "Listen, I'm still going to give it to you because I'm willing to. But in your career, if you are sensitive to feedback, you most likely will receive less of it. If you receive less feedback, you will improve not as fast as you can." And I think that's really important for people to know. And when we can sit back and we all hate performance reviews, no one wants to hear negative things. But imagine sitting in a performance review with a mindset that I'm, fantastic in my role as a vice president of X. And I know what my strengths and weaknesses are because I have both confidence and a lot of knowing about my abilities. And so there's probably nothing that's going to surprise me that they're going to say. Like for my performance review year after year, it was that I need to slow down, that I don't like admin work, right? That I don't always do all of the admin stuff that I should do. And it's like, yeah, no shit. Right? I'm terrible at that. I hate it. I can decide whether or not I'm ever going to get better at it or not. But why did I let it hurt my feelings for years? Where I would leave going, I'm a failure. I never fixed this. And there were some things along the way that I did fix, right? But there's some themes that come up that, like, of course, it's going to come up. We know this about ourselves. This expectation of like, I don't have to be perfect. I'm human. We all have things to work on. It's kind of the same genre of we want everybody to like us, but we don't like everyone. Like, that doesn't make sense. I'm not going to be everybody's cup of tea. Not everyone's mine. That's okay. And I think that really does come from this level of security in who we are as a person and what our value is as a person. You fix that and your whole freaking life gets easier. And these are great examples with sports. We're going to bring it home. We're going to talk about some comeback stories. But first, I want to go into two things. One, earlier, Scott, you mentioned that you used to get angry because you didn't know how to deal with it, and that now you get angry a lot less often. And we talked about your examples on when playing golf. Do you mind sharing a couple of examples? Because you have some good ones on when you are less angry in regular life.
We can go through a bunch.
I thought of the truck first. I always think that's a good, easy.
I never know whether you want me to tell the truck or the heart attack story.
Both. We're
So,
in that order, please.
so, I- it, I, I have a tendency, I had a tendency before working with Shayla, and I knew it was a problem, but, losing my temper, really being frustrated when things don't go the way I think they should. I don't like surprises a lot, even good ones. And so I had a tendency to overreact to those things. A lot of people in my life can give you stories about that if you want to buy them a whiskey. Um, but I'd been working with Shayla for a little while, and uh, we had been to the Big 12 basketball tournament in Kansas City. We'd actually just picked out, we weren't picking her up for a couple of weeks, but we had picked out our new puppy, Ellie. We had gone to the breeder that day, and so we came home and we're all excited, drop the truck off. Last night we're in town. We're going to go to the basketball game and go have a really nice dinner afterwards, sleep in a little bit, get on the road, be home, have lunch with my dad on the way home from Kansas City to Wichita. And we're all excited and we roll out about 9 o'clock. And the valet's like, yeah, Mr. Bender. I'm like, where's my truck? You're supposed to be down here. And he's like, yeah, can you come with me? I'm like, oh, that's not good. And then he said, yeah, your truck's a crime scene. I'm like, oh my. Walk around the corner, and the truck that I've had for just a couple of years, love my truck. The windows are bashed in. They'd stolen some stuff out of the truck. But although there wasn't a lot in there to steal, and they had left the truck full of tools next to me. I mean, all they'd do is pop open a couple of tool beds and they'd have had $5,000 worth of tools out of that truck, I'm guessing. And all I did was I look at it and go, huh, that's going to suck driving home. And that was my kind of reaction to it. And walked around, tried to look around, just really kind of assessed. And my wife, Jill, looked at me and said, who are you? She knew that this would normally have just set me into an explosion. I'd have probably been threatening to sue the hotel, the valet service, the parking garage, the two people walking by the parking garage at the time I happened to be. And I just looked at my situation. I'm like, I can't change what it is. I can be mad and it's not going to get us home any safer, any faster. Got to get through a police report, got to get some things done. They discovered blood on one of the door handles or something. And so we had to wait for the DNA team to come out and the forensic team to come out and take a DNA sample. I'm like, you're not going to chase the guy anyways. Why do we do with this? All of it. And I never once lost my stuff. She said, this is the type of thing that would have distracted you for days in the past. We'd have ruined a week of living together over your
Yeah.
truck past. And all of that went away because I couldn't control what I couldn't control. There was nothing I could do to change the situation. And all my thoughts were about how do I get us home safely? And how do I figure out what I'm going to do to get it fixed? That was it. And
I
it
love
was
that.
so refreshing.
I have an episode on silly little people do silly little things, but we use it in so many different areas. Lynn earlier said I made a silly little shot, and then this is like silly little stuff happens. And so I like to just think of plot twist. Okay, that happened. Now what are we going to do? Right? Because we can't change that it happened, and anger doesn't solve for any of it. All it does is rob us of additional time that we could be enjoying ourselves. And you guys see the same thing all the time with, driving in traffic and getting annoyed by other drivers. That's a choice.
Yeah.
You can also be in your head thinking about anything you want that makes you happy. And so I think it's such an important skill set that works across your life and absolutely can help you improve as an athlete if you lose the anger and just say, okay, what's next?
Anger is a negative momentum. It's like a parachute that carries with you from shot to shot on a golf course. And that's what I learned. I could play great golf until I got angry. And then I really struggled playing good golf after that. I great golf, 14 holes. And then I struggled to even play good golf after I got angry because it was just a parachute that just pulls you backwards because you're always thinking about the last thing and there's nothing you can do about it. As my dad would tell me, if you don't like where the ball ends up, don't hit it there. No need to get mad about it. My dad was not a good golfer, but he was a philosopher from that perspective. He's like, don't get mad about it. You hit it there. Let's just move on and take the next and deal with it. Um, and that's anger is just such an anchor
Yeah.
in my mind, when you try to play. Now, maybe if you play football angry, maybe that gives you more speed or energy. I don't know. But even in my mind, if you even play a sport like that, angry, you're going to not be thinking about something. You're going to miss something that happens. You're going to overreact, overplay something, and end up out of position, which hurts the whole team. So anger is just such a weight that for me
I think
anymore.
I think with that anger too, golf is you're full of excuses of why did that happen and what is every other environmental factor of why I hit the ball there? Well, it wasn't my swing. It was must have been the club. Oh, it was that butterfly that flew. Oh, somebody was talking in my backswing. Somebody was standing behind me or they moved while I was hitting. We
And
can
it was
come
the
up with a
wind.
million excuses.
Yeah.
Yes, the wind. When is it not windy in Nebraska? We've got all of these things, but also, again, taking those out. Yes, there are factors that are going to play into and contribute to where the ball ended up. But sometimes you could hit a tree and it bounces right back into the fairway and you get the lucky breaks along the way as well.
Yeah, and what can you control? My dad's famous words were, "Don't sweat the pee-pee shit," and it's all pee-pee shit. Very, very wise words.
One of my friends said, when like, "Oh, did I cause that?" And she says, "You don't have that. You don't have that kind of control over me."
Yeah, yeah. I love it. Okay, talk to me about the flow. Being in the flow, it's something that a lot of athletes talk about. What does
It
the
is
flow feel like for
amazing.
you, and how do you get in and out of it?
Yeah, flow state. We always enjoy being there. If we think about the best rounds of golf that we played, the best work that we performed, it's probably when you're in flow. You're not thinking. You're performing, you're doing, you're creating. You don't have the mental swirl that's happening. And so that's interesting when I look back on some of the best rounds of golf I played or the most enjoyable rounds of golf that you don't have all of these extra thoughts kind of crowding your brain. You're just in that flow state and it's so much fun, but hard to figure out how to get there. That's for sure.
It's it's a combination of confidence. It's a combination of rhythm. It's a combination of mental focus and just being in the moment. Um, Sometimes we talked about earlier, it's at speed, right? It's sometimes it's having to wait. Some of my best rounds have been I hop on my cart, head out the door, and I just start playing and I'm not thinking about anything else. I hop out of the cart, I get my distance, I get a routine, I hit my shot. Um, and in those scenarios, sometimes even when I miss a shot, if you're playing right for recreation and for fun, I can drop into the ball, hit the next shot, which and hit the same shot again and go, oh, you did have it in you. Okay. Now I'm going to go pick up the one I dropped and go play the one I originally hit and live with my consequence. But you're not having to think about that you couldn't do it again or whatever could have gone wrong. I have found when I'm in the flow is my swing thoughts are simple. I don't, I don't have a lot of, and it's funny, I don't have a lot of swing thoughts. Tempo, head down, swing through. Boom, boom, boom. Hey, it all worked. Great. I wasn't thinking about how I need to get a little tighter grip. I need to strengthen this, weaken this, whatever. I need to you get away from a lot of those things that when you have time and you slow down and you could sometimes knock you out of that flow.
Love that you say, and you brought up that slow down because the golf is such a great game. Like the harder you try to swing, the worse the result's probably going to be. Slowing down your swing, having that consistent tempo is going to create more consistent shots. And Shayla, that's something that you and I have been working on in my professional career is slowing down. I get really fast. I get really excited about what I'm talking about. And I literally had to create a sticky note that says, slow down, be concise, to slow myself down so that I can allow others to catch up, so that I can ensure the words that I'm saying have the most impact.
I love that. I used to have a sticky note that said, "Go slow to go fast." Just had to remind myself, right? One of the things that we talk about in coaching that relates to being in flow or that helps you have a higher likelihood of getting into flow is the idea of reps. And there's two areas we talk about it. First, you have reps under pressure. It's when you're learning something new, when you're not great at it yet, when you're uncomfortable, when it's kind of outside of your realm. And everyone hates being new. They hate being new at something, right? But you have to start with reps under pressure. And then you start having confidence, and then you have reps with confidence. And you've got to go through both cycles. You've got to get enough reps in so that you can build that confidence. And once now, I have not only experience doing the thing, but I have the experience doing the thing while I'm confident about doing the thing. Now my brain can start to relax and go on to that kind of autopilot in the flow because my body knows what to do. My brain knows what to do. I can just be because I've done this so many times. But you've got to get the reps in. And so in business, you can
Yes, you
ask for the opportunity to do things and you can realize it's okay if you're not great at first. You'll get there as long as you keep doing the thing. And I've seen that a lot, in the coaching business. The more, webinars or sales things that I do, the easier it gets. The more coaching calls that I have, I mean, the amount of energy expenditure on a task is so high at the beginning. And then when you get reps, it's so easy. It used to take me a week to write a newsletter. I write 2 months in like an hour and a half now, right? And so it's just about because you form your point of view, you know what you want, you know the style, you get in the flow. It's like everything in life gets easier with reps. So give your chance a chance to have those reps and to have them under confidence. And then the flow just starts to you get to tap into it more often. We all say it's magical, right? We don't know. I can't give you a scientific process to get into it, but that is how you set yourself up to be able to tap into it more often.
I think that's a great analogy. Like I look at it from like my presentation skills. Like I used to get so nervous about presentations and I'd have to have the whole thing scripted. And if I got off track, then the whole thing was derailed. And now someone's like, "Hey, can you come to this meeting and present on this topic?" I'm like, "Sure, I'll wing it." Do you want to do a podcast on golf and mental game? Yep, sure. Let's just wing it and prepare, but show up and have some fun. And I think that is a lot about um sports and golf as well. So a lot of people that are getting into the game of golf, it can be very intimidating. Um, and they can get out there with new people that they haven't played with. They can be intimidated by seeing other people hit good golf shots. There's a lot of rules of golf as well. I don't know all the rules and
Lynn, I used
um,
to be intimidated by I don't know where to park my car and what door to walk into in the clubhouse.
there's so many like things like that that you don't think about unless you're newer to the game. And let's also face it, the majority of golfers don't play that much, especially those of us that are working or live in Nebraska where we've got snow on the ground. Like, you also don't get to play and practice as much as the tour pros or people. So give yourself grace and know that if you do want to improve, practicing does help, but also don't beat yourself up because I just went to Phoenix last week, but I hadn't played golf in 2 months because it is Nebraska. So I'm just going to enjoy the fact that there is no snow on the ground. I'm out here with great people, having a great time, and get the opportunity, like you said, Scott, to take some time off of work and have this great experience. Enjoy the connection that the game brings, meeting new people, having new experiences, know when to pick your ball up and be like, okay, done with this hole, moving on to the next one.
Yeah, I love it. All right, we're going to close this out with a comeback story. Scott, you got one for us? This is titled It's Not Over Till It's Over.
I typically struggle a little bit with my overall game. The long strike shots are where I have a tendency to have a weakness, but my short game's usually pretty good, so I can usually chip and putt pretty well. And somewhere in late July last year, I just got to the point where I couldn't make any putt, and it was over. If it was over 18 inches, I I had to think about it, and I was really struggling. And so, uh, for me, this is I don't know, it's more of a battle through an issue than probably a comeback story. But for me, in the senior club championship, um, I got through the first day and was, I don't know, fourth or fifth place, and was not very happy. Wasn't putted very well, and I was really, really struggling. And man, I even thought about just not even playing the next day. It was really, wasn't very excited about my game at the time, but I came out the next morning, started out on we started out on the hole where it's the widest hole on the course. And the funny thing is it also has out of bounds on both sides. And it's the one that most people hit out of bounds. It's just our home course, widest fairway, widest landing zone in the golf course. And everybody struggles keeping it in play, but pipe the first one down the middle and I'm fine. I was like, wow, that was pretty good. And bottom line, I got through a few holes and um, I still was really struggling with the putting. And I realized about that point, um, but I'm gaining ground on the guys I'm playing against because I was putting the ball in the middle. Yeah, I wasn't putting great, but I was putting it close enough that my bad putting wasn't killing me. And, the 5 or 6 footer that you normally make, I wasn't making that one, but I was leaving it within 6, 7 inches and walking up and knocking that in. I'm like, wow. And I'd had a couple of 3 putts at that point, which were just terrible or they're just not good in golf. Bottom line, I just kept following and fighting. I go, man, I'm hitting the ball really well today. If I just keep doing this, maybe this will work. And usually at that point in the past, I would have gotten over the next tee shot when I made this realization and went, oh, everything relies on this tee shot. No, didn't even care. Maybe I'm going to gain some ground. Maybe I'm not. Fight through the round and end up walking the clubhouse. And I had shot enough to move from fourth or fifth place to second. And I still couldn't putt. At the end of the day, I still couldn't putt. And for me, that was one of those, even my guy one of the guys I play golf with regularly, he's like, I understand you couldn't hit water if you fell out of a boat today, Scott. And I looked up at the wall and I looked down at him and I said, I couldn't putt for shit today. And I still beat you. So, anytime you're ready to go, let's grab the straight sticks and let's go. And, he kind of shut up and we moved on, but it was one of those, just a perseverance and balancing and not letting that thing get me down or not
That's what
thinking
I
about,
love about
yeah,
this story, right? You were intellectually honest because before you would have said, I'm putting so bad, I'm going to quit. I hate this. It's terrible. And you would have like driven that negativity the entire time. This time you go, wait a minute. Yeah, my putting does suck. Be honest about that. But I'm doing everything else right.
yeah.
And like
And these
sometimes we
guys,
don't even look down at the numbers and go, oh, wait, I'm actually doing pretty good. We just tell ourselves a story that's not true at all.
yeah, yes. Normally it would have been that I would not have even paid attention to my score, but when I wrote down my score on that hole, I went, wow, I'm actually gaining ground on the guys I'm competing against.
And that's why I encourage everybody, look at the actual data. Don't let your brain tell you a story that you believe that's negative. I had a client who was a doctor and a surgeon, and she had this very strong belief that she's terrible at follow through. She's a doctor and a surgeon. She went to medical school for 10 years. It's like less than 3% of women that are doctors and surgeons, but she has terrible follow through. These are just stories that our brain tells ourselves that we do not have to accept. And your brain before would have said, I'm terrible at putting. I'm a terrible golfer. This is stupid. I hate it. And instead, you're like, yeah, that putt was bad, but I'm actually doing really great because you allowed yourself to look at evidence on both sides of it, which I absolutely love. And I want to give you guys this example. The Olympics are going on right now. So, do you all know Eileen Gu? She is a freestyle skier in the Olympics right now, and she just won 2 silver medals. And she is like just a badass in every way. She fully understands neuroscience. She was talking the other day about neuroplasticity and how she literally gets to create her life and who she is in any way she dreams possible because she knows that it all starts in her brain. And she's like, I'm lucky because I'm still young enough to like have this neuroplasticity so I can make my brain think whatever it wants and I can be whatever I want. And that includes the fact that she is like the most decorated female skier in history. And she's going to an Ivy League school. And she was raised by like a single mom who was like a professor at an Ivy League. It's such a cool story. Anyhow, the other day and by the way, Eileen, if you're listening, will you please come on the podcast? You'd be like my dream next guest. But she was asked the other day by a reporter, do you see your medals as 2 silvers won or 2 golds lost? And she smiles at him and basically tells him, "That's a silly little question." She's like, "I'm the most decorated female skier that there is. I've won 5 different medals, and everyone is just as hard, and yet the expectations keep rising and rising and rising. Like, how could this not be a life of abundance? How could I not be so proud?" She didn't say these things. This is like what the energy she was giving, right? "How could I not be so proud and so happy with how far I've came?" And that's like that example you just gave, right? Like, was it putts messed up or was it a championship won, right? And we all have this choice in our life to tell ourselves the story about how we're living, about what we're getting out of life, about our performance, about our life. And let me tell y'all, mine is absolutely things gained and not lost. And I'm a better, happier person for it. I think all the time about like, how did a little girl from Kansas get the life that I have? How is any of this possible when I think about where I came from? It is just this beautiful, phenomenal life. When I think about like, what did I lose in my coma versus what did I gain? How freaking lucky am I to still be alive? And that is the choice that we get to ask ourselves every single day. Did we lose 2 golds or did we gain 2 silvers? Such a great example for life. And I think that your last examples got played right into that. So let's recap for the listeners. 1, you are in control of your thoughts and your mood. 2, your identity is not tied to this round, this presentation, or this event. And 3, consistent thoughts create consistent shots. Otherwise said, consistent thoughts create consistent results. So direct your brain intentionally to what you want to think about and think about those cute little puppies, not just that rattlesnake. All right, Scott and Lynn, thank you so much for being here with us on the 5% Club podcast today. It's my honor to be your coach. I love talking to you about business, but today's conversation was fun because being a high performer in any area of your life is the same freaking process. And the highest performing and happiest people know how to manage their mind. And you've done phenomenal with that. And I love watching your life get bigger and better and bolder and happier as you go. Thanks again for being here with us today.
So
Thanks
much,
for having
Shayla.
us.
Thanks for joining me in the 5% Club today. If you're ready to make more, work less, and design a life you love, then go to shaylaking.com and join the waitlist. You'll be the first to know when there's openings to work with me in one-on-one coaching or the Performance and Happiness Lab, my group container where you will learn to be a high-performing, highly paid executive who loves your whole life. I'll see you there.